So LA Customs released their top-down center style hop unit for the Hi-Capa, and I was gonna buy one, but I saw a review on somebody's IG. I can't remember the guy, or I give him a shout out. But it was actually sent to me by a friend of mine who also follows LACC and a couple of other people on Instagram. I personally don't have Instagram, which is why I don't know the guy's handle, but he sent it to me, and per the guy's review of it, he said that compared to the Nexxspeed is a superior product, and it also happens to be more affordable. The Nexxspeed costs $50 something, and the LACC costs $75 or $80, something like that. Now Nexxspeed does make a full brass version of their TDC that costs in that $75 to $80 range, but as far as I can tell, it's not really necessary. So I actually do have one of these Nexxspeed hop units inside of this black Kappa, and honestly I was just absolutely blown away by the performance, to the point where I personally thought it's just a must. Like I need to get another one for my blue Kappa. So this is the barrel that I used to have in here, and this is a PDI barrel, Mark 23 PDI barrel. I had to modify it for it to fit in the Hi-Capa unit, but this is the Airsoft Masterpiece Kappa unit running a competition grade 70 degree unicorn bucking, and it's a nice setup, don't get me wrong. It has good range and good accuracy, but this blue one that has the Nexxspeed hop unit in there, you can see it right there, it's nice and blue. This black pistol just outperforms the blue one in every way but in FPS. The blue one still shoots harder than the black one, so I'm just really impressed with how they're performing. So I figured I'd pick up another Nexxspeed to put in my blue Kappa, and since I'm going to open that up, I'm going to also provide some tips to get better air seal out of your Kappa if you would like to increase your FPS or your shot consistency. So as far as what I'm going to be putting into it right now, it's going to be the Nexxspeed hop unit, this 9-ball 603 millimeter barrel, and this is a 129 length. And the reason I buy 129 length is because when you put them inside the outer barrel with the thread adapter attached, it'll go right about to the end. So this one is actually a little bit longer than the thread adapter, but this is also a 133 if I remember correctly, this inner barrel right here. So this is a 133, this is a 129, and this 129 should go right up to the end of the thread adapter here. Now, I used to buy a lot of stuff from LACC. Almost everything that has been put into my Kappas, I bought from LACC. And they're great. They're a great seller. I'm not gonna trash talk them in any way, shape, or form, but I was recently recommended this guy, Take One Airsoft, by a friend of mine, and I gotta say, like, JT Henderson of Take One Airsoft is the absolute GOAT of customer services. Every time that I've messaged him during business hours, I've received a reply within 5 minutes. So actually, when I placed this order for this hop unit and this barrel, I initially picked the blue one because I was going to put it in the blue Kappa, and I was like, well, let me keep the blue one. But then I started thinking, I was like, man, I should put a silver one in there instead. So I messaged JT and I said, hey, I recently put an order and I would like to change the color of the hop unit from blue to gray. Within 2 minutes, I got a reply from him saying, hey, don't worry about it, I got you taken care of. So like, that is just the best customer service I've ever seen out of any retailer, and that includes Stampede, Airsoft Atlanta, Evike, LA-Capa Customs, Amped, and Airsoft Junkies. None of them have come even close to the level of customer service that I've gotten from Take One Airsoft. So for any Kappa needs, if Take One Airsoft stocks what you're looking for, highly recommend you give them a chance. They're very reliable, they're excellent in communication, and I mean, you just can't beat that right now. So I did forget to mention that the bucking that's going to go in this is going to be a Modify X-Range bucking, which I have to pull out of another hop unit that I have, but I'll show that before I start putting everything together. So here's exactly what I'm going to be replacing in my Kappa, which again, as I mentioned, is going to be the entire hop unit, the barrel and the bucking. This is the Modify X-Range bucking that I was telling you about. In my research to try to find the best bucking available, someone swore up and down that this Modify X-Range is the absolute best bucking they have ever tried in a pistol. So I said, let me give it a shot and see if it works. Now the thing about this Modify X-Range bucking is that the hop window required to use it is big. So if you have a standard hop or a standard barrel like this, like anything like a PDI or a Maple Leaf, you're gonna have to do some modifications to the barrel, and Modify has a video where they show you how to modify it and give you the exact measurements that you need to modify it to. Now these Laylax barrels happen to have ginormous hop windows, so these are actually perfect to use with a Modify X-Range bucking out of the box, which is why I use them. This black pistol also has the exact same barrel brand and type, just shorter in length, and the exact same bucking. So as you can see here, this ring is what puts pressure on the bucking to get your hop working. In order to pull this ring out, you have to remove this little teeny tiny screw right here. I'll do that at some point, but that screw has to be completely out in order to remove this ring here, because this ring needs to be slipped on over the barrel, and then you put the bucking on, and then you slip the ring over the bucking. Now I'm not going to show you how to do that because my GoPro doesn't have a memory card in it right now. I don't know where it's at, so I'm using my phone, which I need to hold in my hand in order to shoot the video. But whenever it's put together, I'll show you what I'm talking about so that you know how it goes all together. But this is it, and these new ones come with a spare set of screws. These are Allen key screws, which I'm not particularly fond of because they do tend to strip. The first one that I bought didn't come with that, but this one did come pre-installed with Phillips head screws. If the camera ever decides to, there it goes, Phillips head screws. So these are a lot better than the hex key screws that came in my first blue Nexxspeed hop unit. So very glad they made that change. So let me put this all together and then I'll be back. So I had my order of events wrong. You have to put the ring onto the bucking first and then put the bucking on the barrel. So I'm gonna see if I can do that here without putting my phone down. And just like that. So I've got my BBU taken apart, and here's where shit's about to get some real kind of weird, right? So I've tried several different internals between Cow, the stock ones, the Edge blue ones, and the Airsoft Masterpiece ones. And my favorite combination so far has been the Airsoft Masterpiece valve that's inside, which is, if I can show it here, that piece right there that moves, that's the valve. That's an Airsoft Masterpiece aluminum valve. And then the valve blocker, which you can see here, is also aluminum, and that is a Cow. The only reason I have a Cow in there is because, as far as I know, Airsoft Masterpiece doesn't make one. But the Cow one works. It literally just holds the valve in place, so there's no need to, it doesn't do any kind of air seal, is what I'm saying, so it doesn't matter. And the reason I go with the aluminum one is because the plastic ones, if you get a little overzealous with the tightening of the screw, you'll end up stripping it, and then it'll end up blowing out eventually. I have broken the valves in plastic ones that I've used, just because it's not even high pressure, because I run my regulators at 80 psi, but the air seal was just so good that it ended up breaking the plastic valve that was in here. So when I said it was going to get weird, this is why. Because the first thing I do to test for air seal is I'll stick something, a small screwdriver, something, whatever it is, inside of here and push the valve down. And make sure you have it pushed all the way in so that it's in the closed position as if it was shooting. After that, you're going to blow into it. Alright, so I'm blowing pretty hard. Obviously, you can't tell that just from watching the video, but I'm trying to blow pretty hard, and there's a little itty bitty teeny tiny bit of air coming out, but that's probably because I'm not pressing directly down. But what you're looking for is obviously the air seal. So when you do that and you blow into it, you should have very, very, very little, if any, air escaping. If you can blow through it, no problem, and it's not giving any kind of resistance, try something else. The dynamic position red valve that I've tried also worked pretty well. That's actually what I have in my purple Kappa, but this one also has an airsoft masterpiece in it. The Cow one did not work, and I actually happen to have one sitting right here. This one, when I tried it, it had a terrible air seal, did not like it, so I don't use it. But the Cow one didn't work out for me. It might work for someone else. It depends on what kind of nozzle you're using. This is a garter nozzle, so that may affect it. That might work in something like an Edge blue nozzle, which coincidentally is what I have in here. I do have and you just saw it as it retracted. That's the Edge blue nozzle that's in here. By the way, with the combination that's in here, look at that freaking seal between the bucking and the nozzle. Like, that's fantastic. That's exactly what you're looking for between your nozzle and your bucking. But that Edge blue nozzle has an airsoft masterpiece air valve in it, and it also has excellent seal. I will say that one does have a plastic valve blocker in there, just because I don't have any more of the aluminum ones on hand. I do plan on changing that at some point, but I'll get to that when I get to it. I'm not overly concerned about it right now. So the next thing is the nozzle to BBU. So I have a ton of these O-rings floating around, and the reason for that is because sometimes this O-ring doesn't seal well enough with the nozzle to get good air seal. So what you're looking for is obviously free movement. You should be able to move it like that very easily without too much effort. And again, this is one of those things you can't really tell just from watching the video, but I'm not putting much of any effort in here to move this, right? But in order to check the air seal between the O-ring and the nozzle, you're going to plug this hole right here on the bottom and then blow it in. And again, you can't tell how hard I'm blowing, but I'm blowing pretty freaking hard and it's not coming out. So that tells me that my air seal is good and there isn't resistance between the nozzle and the O-ring enough to cause any kind of malfunctions. So those are the two things that I check and the parts that I use to get the good compression out of my Kappas. So excellent air seal is going to give you great consistency and will allow you to use low FPS while still maintaining low PSI, while still maintaining good FPS. So as far as other nozzles, again, I've tried the Edge Blue, as you can see in here. That one works really well. The garter works really well. The stock TM also works really well. And I've tried the Pink Mood. I heard a lot of good things about the Pink Mood, so I gave it a shot. I did not like it. When I tried the Pink Mood versus my setup, the Pink Mood was shooting about 0.4 joules lower than my setup. So my setup, which again in this particular gun, it's a garter nozzle with airsoft masterpiece valve, the Cow valve blocker. The O-ring was changed to fit the nozzle. This is an Edge V2 blowback unit. So this combination was shooting in the blue pistol. It shoots about 1.11 joules. The combination that I have in here, which is also an Edge blowback unit, but it has the blue nozzle, the plastic garter valve blocker, the aluminum, the airsoft masterpiece valve. This is shooting about 1 joule. The Pink Mood was shooting 0.6 joules. So big difference between a good nozzle setup and what I would consider a bad nozzle setup, just for you guys to have that knowledge. Now I have noticed sometimes that so I'll show you here, you can see that the rear sight on my black pistol is wobbly. That's because if I tighten that screw all the way, it will put pressure on the nozzle spring and cause it to not retract properly. So I have found that occasionally, if you over tighten or properly tighten the screws on your sights, it's going to cause issues. So something to keep in mind. It took me a while to figure that out. I was having all kinds of issues with my purple Kappa. That's the one that I actually figured it out with. We don't talk about the purple Kappa, but that's the one that I usually figured out, that I actually figured it out with, and I did it with these as well, just out of curiosity, and they work very well. I do put some blue Loctite on the screw just to make sure that it doesn't back out while I'm playing, but again, as I said, I keep my rear sights a little loose just to make sure that the nozzle can retract properly every time. Now onto the hop, which is what this is about. You'll notice that it has a little screw right here on the bottom, and that is so that when you put it on the frame, it acts, you see how it wobbles like that? You can use it to put pressure on the frame to stabilize it. Now on a regular Capa like a TM, that is an awesome feature to have on your hop unit because it stabilizes your barrel, which means your shots will be a lot more accurate. But both of these pistols are ICS bases, and ICS had a big brain moment where they actually put a barrel stabilizing screw right here. So you don't need that screw in an ICS. Again, both of these are ICSs, so both of them have that screw. And I'm going to show you right here. This barrel right here has 0 wobble because I have used that screw to stabilize the barrel. ICS Master Race. I know a lot of people are huge fans of Tokimarui. Me personally, I like them. Don't get me wrong. I think they're great pistols. They're good bases to build off of, but an ICS costs about the same as a gold match, and you just get so much more out of them. I've done a video on an ICS, but just to give you a quick rundown, obviously you get the stabilizing screw here, you get full steel internals. This does come with an advanced frame style system, so it has the full rail here, and it has the chassis that pulls out instead of having to disassemble the whole thing. It is fully TM compatible. Obviously both of these guns have been modified with TM compatible parts, and the barrel and bucking that, or I'm sorry, the barrel and hop that come in the ICS are also TDC style. It's a 604, I believe, nickel plated barrel of some sort. They claim it's steel. Some people say it's not steel. I used a magnet on it. It didn't attach, so it's definitely not steel or any kind of ferrous metal. But it is a TDC style 604, technically tight bore barrel, and they actually do have really good range and accuracy. I do like them. The only reason I replaced it in my blue one is because, again, when I put it in here, you can see how it comes pretty close to the edge of the end of the outer barrel, and the 4.3 length barrel, the 5.1, the 113 millimeter barrel that you're supposed to use with a 5.1 is too short, and I don't like having that extra space. Since I have a longer outer barrel, I use a longer inner barrel to fill in that space, first of all, but also because it gives the air a little more time to push the BB out, so you get a little bit higher FPS as well, which is a big plus, of course. So 130 millimeter for the 5.1, 113 millimeter for the 4.3. Alright, so remember how I mentioned that sometimes if you over tighten the sights, you can end up putting pressure on the spring and causing feeding issues. So in order to check that, every time I put one of these together, I always take a screwdriver or something and I just pull on this a couple times. And you can't just do it one and done. You have to do it 10-15 times to make sure that it cycles properly every time. If at any point it starts stopping around here and you can feel it and you can push it back and hear it reset completely, or if it does stop halfway like that and then you remove or back the screw on your side a little bit and you hear like a crunch and the spring release, that means that your screw is over tightened and you're gonna have to leave it wobbly. Just something to know if you have that issue with the misfeeding. Right. And again, this is 100% loaded with 0.32s. So those readings are probably accurate. I'm gonna grab my HPA tap and do the same thing and see what that reads, but that is with green gas, Elite Force green gas, and 32 BBs. So I've got everything all hooked up. My HPA tap, obviously my chrono is ready to go, and again, So it's currently a little bit over 80 psi. Still in that 360 to 370 range, so I'm not going to include the first chrono video where I did that, but again, on 2.0s at a little over 80 psi. This tank has a little under 1,000 psi in it, shooting right about where I expected it to be, somewhere in the 1.2 joule range. I wouldn't play with it like this. I would actually turn it down to about 1.15 or 1.1, somewhere in between that range, just for safety. And again, as I mentioned before, I don't like playing with guns that are shooting stupid hard for no reason. I don't like hurting people. So I wouldn't play it like this, but just to give you guys an idea of what my particular process for building nets me in terms of performance. Now, I do wish I could show you some proper distance videos, but I will say that with that black one, when I used it over the weekend, I was getting somewhere in the range of, if I had to guess, 160 to 190 feet. I don't have a rangefinder, unfortunately, and I wasn't standing at points that I knew the distances to, so I'm kind of guessing, but it was easily over 100 feet, very easily also over 120, and I know that because I've shot from over there where I have my mess, where that bottle is at, to those trees down there. That's approximately 120 feet, and I can reach that with my Capas no problem. They're still flying by the time they hit the trees. Obviously the trees obstruct my view, so I can't see how much further they're flying, but this barrel bucking and hop unit is by far the absolute best combination I've ever seen for range and accuracy. Highly recommend it. If you're looking to do something like this yourself, I would recommend that you buy from Take One Airsoft. JT is an absolute GOAT. Big shout out to him. Thanks to him for getting my parts out. I ordered on Friday. They got here today, which is Monday for anybody who's watching this in the future. So shipping doesn't take too long. I'm in Illinois. He's over in California, if I remember correctly. So shipping doesn't take too long for him. His communication is excellent. He's working with the customers. He's a small business, and I can say as of right now, currently, as of the date of posting this video, literally within 5 minutes, he's replied to every single one of my messages. Granted, I've only had to email him about 3 times in the past. One time he forgot my item, and I emailed him and I said, hey, you forgot to send this to me, and within 5 minutes, hey, don't worry about it. Here's your shipping number. Here's your tracking number. So he not only messaged me right away, he had it printed, labeled, and packaged ready to go immediately. And then this time around, I wanted to change the color on the hop unit that I ordered. Within 2 minutes, he hit me up and he was like, hey, say less, I got you. Here's your order update. He showed me the order where it changed the Nexxspeed from blue to gray, and he shipped it out that same day, and I got it 3 days later. So big shout out to JT Henderson of Take One Airsoft. The man is an absolute legend. So final thing, some of people may still be asking, how do I get such high FPS out of my pistols when I'm running them at relatively low pressures? You know, green gas is known to be one of the lower pressure gases, and 80 psi on an HPA tap is not that much. Well, here's the answer. So as you can see here, both of my mags have the Lilacs gas routes, the purple ones. Every single mag that I own for a Capa, because I only own Capas as pistols, has this purple Lilacs gas route. So there's my other adapter, there's my third one. Here's another one of my green gas mags. I do have a third green gas mag. I'm not entirely sure where it's at right now, but as you can see, every single one of my mags has that gas route. That's thing number one. Thing number two, and that's what I was showing earlier here in the video, is the valve. My HPA tapped adapters are running Neo R gas valves, high flow valves, and my green gas mags are running the PTS MTech high flow valves. So that's another thing that you will have to replace on your guns, the mags specifically, if you want to be seeing those high FPS outputs that I showed in my video. So if you like the content, feel free to like, subscribe, make any comments in the comment section if you have them, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I do my best to get back to everybody that comments. Thanks for watching.